Good morning. Okay. And welcome to the Regional Training Workshop on Information and Communications Technologies, jointly hosted by the International Telecommunications Union, the ITU, and the Eastern Caribbean Telecommunications Authority, ECTEL. For those of you who are visiting St. Lucia, and we have quite a few persons, would like to welcome you. If it's your first visit, I hope you had a safe trip in and you'll enjoy your 4 or 5 days here. And those of you who have been here before, I'm sure you will be happy to have another opportunity to enjoy all St. Lucia has to offer. We have a short program this morning as we start off our proceedings. So we will begin by asking everybody to stand at attention while we play the national anthem of St. Lucia. Thank you. Okay, this morning we have 4 persons who are going to tell us everything that we will need to know about the purpose of this workshop, so I won't take up any of your time with that, and we will start by inviting Mr. Ember Charles, the Managing Director of ECTEL, to deliver welcome remarks.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I had to borrow the minister's program because I guess it's commonly known now that his designation is so long that you must read it properly. Senator the Honorable Dr. James Fletcher, Minister of the Public Service, Sustainable Development, Energy, Science and Technology of St. Lucia. That's the end of it. Mr. Sylvester Cadet from the ITU Caribbean Office based in Barbados, Ms. Esperanza and Mr. Mark Ponte from the ITU office in Geneva, colleague regulators, members of various departments of statistics in the Caribbean, and those of you who do not fall in that category. On behalf of the Board of Directors and staff of the Eastern Caribbean Telecommunications Authority, ECTEL, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you to the Regional Training Workshop on ITU, Information and Communications Technology Indicators. ECTEL and the Regional Office of the ITU jointly organized the workshop in response to a call from the governments of the Caribbean region to address some glaring gaps in the ITU representation of ICT national indicators. The workshop also comes against a background of a wide range of other factors and circumstances in our Caribbean region, particularly in the Eastern Caribbean. Over the past few years, there have been a wide range of ICT development projects, all aimed at improving the socio-economic conditions of the citizens, but also designed to address some global competitiveness issues related to the region. Invariably, the representation of the results of these projects, in part, determine the ranking of ICT, or the ICT readiness ranking of these countries by agencies such as the ITU, the OECD, and the World Bank. Additionally, ministers responsible for telecommunications in the Eastern Caribbean, most of whom make up the Council of Ministers of ECTEL, have interrogated the relevant institutions in our region over the quality and the timeliness of data presented to these international agencies, particularly the ITU. As a regulator, ECTEL is expected to provide sound, evidence-based policy advice to its contracting states. The quality of the advice is directly related to the quality and reliability of relevant data from the various stakeholders in the sector, particularly the service providers. Our efforts to gather this data has at best been challenging and in the main slow and in some cases problematic. It is therefore imperative that we all appreciate the need for timely and high quality data to provide to the appropriate agencies, and in this particular case, the telecommunications regulator. In the past few years, in addition to the challenge of gathering data, the convergence in the sector has raised new issues of definition of services and invariably measurement of the quantity and quality of these services. As we move into the workshop for the next 4 days, it is imperative that the participants keep in mind the following issues and scenarios. Firstly, that there should be a clear understanding of the requirements of the international agencies. Secondly, honing in on precise parameters for the data which must be forward-looking and also relevant. We must also address specific conditions in the Caribbean for which consideration must be given in these rankings. At the national and regional level, there must be increased awareness for the appreciation of data and the obligation outside of the legal requirements to share national data in the public interest. We must also develop practical working relationships among agencies in the collection of that data. In this instance, our primary concern at ECTEL is a stronger working relationship among the regulators, the statistics departments, and the other policy agencies within the public sector. The need to sensitize the private sector and service providers in particular, and citizens in general in data collection is particularly important. ECTEL will continue to collaborate with all institutions to ensure that the presentation of data is of a high quality and is also timely. It will be 4 days of work, but I understand that time has been allotted for some relaxation and recharging during the course of the week. Again, I extend a warm welcome to all of you, particularly those of you who are coming from north of the equator, and hope that our time together is productive and rewarding. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Charles. I think during his welcome address, Mr. Charles sort of put in very clear focus the reason for us being here, and I hope that we will bear in mind the need for greater collaboration as we deliberate these next 4 days. Our next speaker is the ITU Program Officer for the Caribbean, Mr. Sylvester Cadet.
Let me thank you, Ms. Hector. And first of all, let me say a special and warm good morning to all of you, and to Senator the Honorable Dr. James Fletcher, Minister of the Public Service, Sustainable Development, Energy, Science and Technology of St. Lucia, Mr. Embert Charles, Managing Director of ECTEL, whom we find in a very wonderful collaborator, Ms. Esperanza Macpante, my colleague from the ITU in Geneva. She's the ITU senior statistician. Also my colleague to my right, Mr. Ivan Vallejo, who is a telecoms analyst with the ITU in Geneva. To all of you distinguished participants, again a warm welcome. Many of you are familiar with the work of the ITU in the region. Many of you are familiar with the HIPCA projects, also very familiar with telecommunications and cost modeling initiatives, spectrum management, and emergency telecommunications, child online program, COP, just to name a few. The ITU also is integrally involved in coordination, facilitation, and recommendation on a number of ICT fronts in the region. Hence, here we have this collaborative undertaking with ECTEL to host this particular workshop. The ITU area office in Barbados is quite pleased, and I must say that unfortunately the ITU area representative, by virtue of other exigent matters, could not make it here today, but he does extend his welcome to all participants, and of course we anticipate that we would have a fantastic workshop here. So let me just convey his sentiments to you. This workshop is primarily targeted at those responsible for ICT statistics in relevant ministries, regulatory agencies, and national statistics offices. And it comes on the heels of two major events last year. The launch of the 2013 edition of Measuring the Information Society report in October. The MIS report is ITU's flagship annual analytic report on the state of technology use, access, and affordability worldwide, and features the latest ITU data and analysis of market developments. In particular, the MIS presents the results of the ICT Development Index, the IDI, which is an international benchmarking tool which ranks countries according to their ICT achievements. In this particular report last year, it showed Barbados ranking at #1 in the Caribbean and #3 in the Americas region, and 29th globally out of 157 countries assessed for that period. This particular report really generated increased interest among Caribbean countries as to how statistics are collected, collated, analyzed, and presented. And therefore, it stimulated a greater need for understanding the various components of the various questionnaires put forward by the ITU. And as such, it created an imperative for holding such a workshop. The other major event of 2013 was the annual World Telecommunications ICT Indicators Symposium, which was held in Mexico in December. And this here served as the key global forum to discuss telecommunications ICT measurement issues. We were encouraged by the participation of a number of Caribbean countries in this particular forum. I can see a number of individuals who were at that Mexico meeting. These two events served as a stimulus to further sensitization and the need for collaboration and capacity building in the area of ICT statistics. As you are aware, the ITU is the UN specialized agency for ICTs and is the official source for global ICT statistics, and it develops international definitions, standards, and methodologies to measure the information society and economy. In that context, and out of the necessity for capacity building and the specific requests by countries of the region for such a workshop through ECTEL, individually and otherwise, we are together conducting this regional workshop to help guide countries in their data collection efforts. This workshop is significant not just for the opportunity for capacity building in the area of ICT statistics in and of itself, but also we are all too cognizant of the importance of ICTs to support policy making and to guide decision makers. It also serves as the basis to compare countries over time and to each other in the form of benchmarking. And also, it helps to set and evaluate targets and objectives. This is more so when economic planning, economic direction, more than ever before, is grounded by evidence-based policy and results-based initiatives. In other words, in order to design effective ICT policies and take strategic investment decisions, governments need to know how many internet users there are in the country, where they are located, and what they do on the internet. Similarly, in order to develop, promote, and target development-oriented mobile applications, public and private players need to know how many people use a mobile phone, who they are, and where they live. ICT statistics, therefore, may also well be a window into the stage of progress of one country in the information age, and therefore could well serve as a gauge that could well influence interest by would-be investors, thus indirectly serving as a pull factor, as the case may be, for foreign direct investment. So in a nutshell, herein lies the essence of this week's workshop. I would want to take this opportunity to encourage all of us to diligently address all the issues that are set before us, as well as putting on the table the various hurdles, obstacles, challenges that you encounter during collecting, analyzing, presenting statistics on your various fronts. I also wish that we would look at the whole issue of coordination in a very concerted way, so that at the end of this exercise, we have clear guidelines as to how to move forward in the whole collaboration process. This is critically important, especially in this stage of the region's development. I wish everyone a fruitful and interactive workshop, and I urge recommendations and solutions to any and all of the issues that require solutions. Some of the issues may be challenging, but I've learned one thing. And I learned it in an area that is now in a lot of turmoil. Every day you see, for the last 2 days, you see that particular country in upheaval. And there is one thing that one professor told me. Who dares wins. Who dares wins. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cadet. And I think I'm not sure how many of us will now say that we know something in Russian, but maybe some of us. The next person up to present some brief remarks is the ITU senior statistician and one of our key presenters at the workshop this week, Ms. Esperanza Magpante.
Good morning, everybody. Senator, the Honorable Dr. James Fletcher, Minister of the Public Service, Sustainable Development, Energy, Science and Technology of St. Lucia, Mr. Embert Charles, Managing Director of ECTEL, colleagues from ECTEL and ITU, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor to be here as one of the facilitators of this capacity building workshop on information and communication technology indicators. This is an important event for everybody. Your presence here today shows your recognition of the importance of ICT indicators and the need to properly define and measure them. The world around us is changing really fast. Technologies are changing and improving as we speak, and the delivery of services, mode of information access and usage are changing as well. To this end, it is crucial to constantly monitor trends in ICT infrastructure and access, and the use of ICTs by households and individuals. These are our focus for this week's workshop, using indicators and definitions that are agreed internationally. This will ensure that the data are comparable and could be used to assess countries' progress towards becoming information societies. During the course of this 4-day workshop, we will be discussing several topics ranging from definitions and methodologies of indicators, how these indicators are used to analyze trends and benchmark with other countries, existing mechanisms of coordination in the area of ICT indicators, and other international efforts related to improving ICT measurements. We hope that the next few days will be full of discussions and rich experience sharing that would benefit everyone attending this workshop. I urge you to exchange and debate your experiences, as well as to ask questions to us who will be facilitating this workshop. Whenever, of course, you need something and something is unclear from here, we are also ready to address that during coffee breaks and lunch breaks. We hope that this workshop will be the start of a rich, timely, and comparable ICT statistics in the region. This is not just to populate the ITU database, but more for your country's policy-making needs, as sound data is one of the prerequisites of formulating effective policies. Let me thank you for having come for this workshop. I am sure that it will be a fruitful one, judging from the representation of countries and agencies here today. We have the three important parties here involved in ICT measurements: the National Statistics Offices, ministries, and regulators. Let's take this opportunity to brainstorm on how ICT measurements could be improved in your own country by engaging in national coordination dialogues and learning from what others are doing. Finally, I would like to thank ECTEL for generously hosting this workshop and our ITU colleagues for organizing this event. I will stop here, as you will be hearing from me for the rest of the 4 days regarding the details of IT work on ICT statistics. I wish all of us a successful workshop. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Esperanza. We will now invite, we have the pleasure of having Senator the Honorable Dr. James Fletcher, who is the Minister of the Public Service, Sustainable Development, Energy, Science and Technology, and has responsibility for telecommunications and ICT in St. Lucia. And again, we are happy to have Dr. Fletcher here with us, and it shows the importance that we at ECTEL and St. Lucia in particular has placed on the need for building capacity in this particular area. Without further ado, I'd like to invite Dr. Fletcher.
Thank you, Ms. Hector. Mr. Ember Charles, Managing Director, ECTEL, Mr. Sylvester Cadet, ITU Program Officer, Ms. Esperanza Magpante, ITU Senior Statistician, participants, members of the Government Information Service, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. The Government of St. Lucia is pleased to collaborate with the International Telecommunications Union and ECTEL to host this regional training workshop on ITU Information and Communications Technology Indicators. At a global knowledge conference in Toronto, Canada in 1997, the then Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan, said the following, I quote, "The great democratizing power of information has given us all the chance to effect change and alleviate poverty in ways we cannot imagine today. Our task is to make that change real for those in need, wherever they may be. With information on our side, with knowledge or potential for all, the path to poverty can be reversed. The quantity and quality of available information is changing dramatically every day in every country in the world. Citizens are gaining greater and greater access to information too. And perhaps most importantly, the spread of information is making accountability and transparency facts of life for any free government." Kofi Annan concluded his address with the following statement: "What is so thrilling about our time is that the privilege of information is now an instant and globally accessible privilege. It is our duty and our responsibility to see that gift bestowed on all the world's people, so that all may live lives of knowledge and understanding," unquote. Since Kofi Annan gave that speech, we have witnessed impressive growth in information and communications technology, infrastructure, and uptake. As we meet here today, we can celebrate the incredible progress in technology access that governments and industry have made over the past decade or so. Less than a decade ago, there were 1.4 billion mobile cellular subscriptions worldwide, and there were 780 million people using the internet. Today, there are now almost as many mobile cellular subscriptions as there are people on our planet, 6.8 billion subscriptions. There are roughly 2.75 billion individuals using the internet. There have also been rapid changes in the ways in which we communicate, and some of these changes have taken your breath away. Not too long ago, Windows messaging and MySpace ruled the world. They've now given way to BB messaging, which itself is now giving way to WhatsApp, which if you were following recently, you would note that Facebook bought for a staggering amount of $19 billion. However impressive as this rate of progress is, it should be noted that it still leaves almost 2/3 of the world's population excluded from the benefits ushered in by the tremendous potential of ICTs and the attendant access to information, networks, people, and opportunities for personal, professional, and commercial development. Despite the gains of the last decade, there is still a digital divide. The ITU 2013 edition of Measuring the Information Society report, now in its 5th year, identifies key ICT developments and tracks the cost and affordability of ICT services in accordance with internationally agreed methodologies. Its core feature is the ICT Development Index, which ranks countries' performance with regard to ICT infrastructure and uptake. The report aims to provide an objective international performance evaluation based on quantitative indicators and benchmarks as an essential input to the ICT policy debate in ITU member states. The 5th edition of the ITU Measuring the Information Society report was launched on 7th October 2013 at ITU headquarters, Geneva, Switzerland. And the information on the Caribbean is quite revealing. Barbados was ranked 29 for 2012, up from 36 in 2011. Antigua and Barbuda ranked 49 in 2012, down from 44th in 2011. St. Vincent and the Grenadines in 2012 ranked 63rd. They ranked 59 in 2011. Trinidad and Tobago in 2012 ranked 66, down from 63 in 2011. St. Lucia, a statistic that I'm not too proud of, was ranked at 75 for 2012, down from 72 in 2011. Suriname ranking in 2012 was 87, down from 84 in 2011. Jamaica, the 2012 ranking was 93, which was the same for 2011. And Guyana was ranked at 105, down from 106 in 2011. The report shows that ICT uptake remains limited in many developing countries, and particularly in the least connected countries, the LCCs, which is a group of 39 countries home to 2.4 billion people, with particularly low levels of ICT development. In this group of countries, ICTs can become key enablers for achieving international and national development goals and have the greatest development impact. Therefore, more policy attention certainly needs to be directed towards them. As more and more people join the global information society and high-speed communication networks become an indispensable infrastructure, the tracking and measurement of developments in information and communications technologies become even more important. While the ubiquitous availability of mobile telephone services is undeniable, with close to 100% of the population covered by a mobile signal, not everyone has a mobile phone. And sometimes, and this is one case where statistics can be a little bit deceiving, because for the ECTEL member states, the 5 countries that comprise ECTEL, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dominica, and Grenada, and St. Kitts and Nevis, mobile phone penetration is 129%, which suggests that for every 100 people, there are 129 cell phones, which is correct, but it does not mean that everybody has a cell phone. So again, it's important for us to delve a little deeper into the statistics and see exactly what it means. From a measurement point of view, the ongoing challenge, therefore, remains to identify those who are still left without access to ICTs. ITU and UNESCO set up the Broadband Commission for Digital Development in response to the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon's call to step up UN efforts to meet the Millennium Development Goals. The Commission was established in May 2010, 5 years after the World Summit on the Information Society, and 10 years after the launch of the MDGs. The Commission aims to boost the importance of broadband on the international policy agenda and believes that expanding broadband access in every country is critical to accelerating progress towards these goals by the target date of 2015, just 1 year from now. It defines practical ways in which countries at all stages of development can achieve this in cooperation with the private sector. The Broadband Commission for Digital Development has set 4 simple, clearly defined targets, namely, first of all, making broadband policy universal. Secondly, making broadband affordable. Thirdly, connecting homes to broadband. And target number 4, getting people online. This is not just a pipe dream, it is a reality we need to achieve. Here in St. Lucia, we have started to work towards achieving those targets. With the help of the ITU, a broadband policy was developed, which has now been shared with ECTEL in the hope that it can be adopted across the 5 independent member states that comprise the ECTEL union. Affordable broadband, target number 2, however, is proving a little bit more elusive. We have not been able to get the cooperation of our service providers to understand that the challenge is not just to reduce the cost of talk minutes, which seems to be a focus of our service providers. And here in St. Lucia, we have thrown the gauntlet out to our service providers, and we have asked ECTEL to make this a focus. We have to get broadband more affordable in the Eastern Caribbean and in the Caribbean. And not only do we have to make broadband more affordable, but we also have to increase the bandwidth that is made available. I still think it is absolutely ludicrous at this day and age for service providers to be speaking about 1 megabyte and charging $79 for it. And this is something that we cannot accept, and we have to say that enough is enough. And if we are to join this new information age, our service providers need to do much better where affordability of broadband is concerned. The third target of connecting homes to broadband, again, in St. Lucia, we do have a digital divide. In this part of the country where you are right now, the access penetration of broadband is somewhere in the vicinity of, I think it's 55, 60%. But when you go along the west coast of St. Lucia, in communities like Canaries and Anse-la-Raye and Choiseul and Labrie, it can range anywhere between 13 and 21%. So clearly, we have a job on our hands to make people to give greater access to broadband. What we've tried to do is to provide incentives to service providers for the rollout of 4G LTE, understanding that wireless broadband probably allows us with the lowest hanging fruit to be able to get broadband accessible to everyone. And the final target, getting people online, again, the government has taken steps towards that target by implementing a community access program where we've been establishing community access centers around the island, and we are fortunate to receive some assistance, or we will be receiving some assistance from the ITU in this regard. But also through a World Bank funded project, we will be implementing a virtual island-wide Wi-Fi project, which again should allow us to realize that target. But the vital role of broadband needs to be acknowledged at the core of any post-2015 Sustainable Development Framework to ensure that all countries, developed and in particular developing, are empowered to participate in the global digital economy. I wish to congratulate the ITU on continuing to take a leading role in the development of internationally comparable indicators on ICT infrastructure and ICT access and use by households and individuals. ICTs must be given much greater prominence in the UN's post-2015 development agenda as they are catalysts of broad social and economic development. That will mean setting new goals and new targets and measuring these with new indicators. During the recent Broadband Leadership Summit held in October in Geneva, in conjunction with the ITU Telecom World 2011 Summit, global ICT leaders endorsed ambitious but achievable targets for broadband policy, affordability, and uptake. It is intended that reporting will be done regularly on progress made towards meeting those targets. The data collected by ITU from its membership will provide a key source for the monitoring of these internationally agreed goals and targets. Ladies and gentlemen, without measurement, we cannot track progress or identify the gaps that require our attention. It was H. James Harrington who said, and I quote, "Measurement is the first step that leads to control and eventually to improvement. If you can't measure something, you can't understand it. If you can't understand it, you can't control it. And if you can't control it, you certainly cannot improve it." There is increasing need for accurate and comparable data and statistics on ICT, particularly in our region. In order to take effective ICT policy decisions, it is essential for us as policymakers to have reliable data on access to ICTs, on how ICTs are being used by our citizens, governments, and businesses, and on the impact of ICTs on social and economic development. For this reason, this initiative of the ITU in ensuring the availability of reliable and timely indicators is extremely commendable and timely. For all of these reasons, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to wish you a very productive workshop. I thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fletcher. I think this was an excellent start to what we hope will be a very productive and very interactive working session. In fact, we are hoping during the break to kind of get people a little closer together so that we understand that the intention here is so that we learn from each other and that we walk away each with a better understanding of the role that each of our agencies play in ensuring that the information about the sector in our region is accurate and timely. Because we do have a challenge where in some instances we either don't measure the right indicators, but there are other instances where we measure the indicators, but sometimes we don't publish it in a timely manner, or we don't make it available, say, to the ITU or to agencies where it can be made useful. I think in particular, we would like to thank everybody who made this workshop possible. We would like to thank the ITU for coming here. I mean, it's a long way from Geneva, and we know it can be a very tiring flight, but we know that our two presenters are equal to the challenge this week, so we would like to thank the ITU for responding to the request from ECTEL and the Caribbean in general for providing us with the opportunity to build capacity in this area. Again, in particular, we would like to thank Dr. Fletcher for his very encouraging words, but I think he also left us with a reminder that as much as we have made a lot of progress, and those of us in the regulatory field, we know that we have made a lot of progress in the past 10 years, there are still a number of challenges, and in fact, the challenges ahead may seem even more insurmountable than those that we fought about 10 years ago. Because this time, we are no longer dealing with one giant, one cable and wireless, one incumbent. We are now dealing with a mindset, an issue of getting everybody to understand and appreciate the need and how ICTs can make life for us a lot better. I think in particular, the challenge for affordable broadband in the Caribbean region is a challenge that we have to rise to. When we look at the data from the ITU, we note that with the exception of, I think, maybe 2 member states, certainly in ECTEL, I think it was St. Kitts and Grenada, most of our member states are, broadband is at a rate which is more than 5% of average monthly GNI, which is the affordability target set by the ITU. So we still have a lot of work to do. We have a significant problem with regards to bandwidth. As the minister indicated, we still, for most of us, the best that you can get is about 1 or 2 megabytes. And in terms of making broadband truly useful to persons, it can be a challenge when that is basically the affordability issue can be a challenge. If you have to pay what is equivalent of more than 5% of your average monthly spend on something that you think is not as good as it can be, then that is a challenge for persons who are already challenged, as we know, by the economic conditions that we all face. We also would like to thank the GIS team who have been here from the inception of this meeting, and we've also have a few other persons from the media. We'd like to also thank you for coming here to cover this very important meeting. The Secretariat of the ECTEL, they've done an excellent job. It's always a challenge putting together these workshops, and we had a very short window to put this together. And we also want to thank the ministries, in particular the ministries of statistics, the statistics departments, as well as the ministries with responsibility for telecommunications and ICT in St. Lucia and outside of St. Lucia, who have aided us in putting this workshop together. Again, we are encouraging participants to make this a true workshop where we all work very hard at ensuring that we walk away with a much better appreciation for what we need to do when we get back home to ensure that the statistics, the ICT statistics for the region are available, transparent, and more importantly, that they are internationally comparable. So without further ado, I think we have come to the end of this formal session. So we will now invite you to, I think we are planning to have a group photo. Excuse me. Sorry. Okay, we would like to have a group photo, which we will do right away, because as you can well imagine, we are very happy to have Minister Fletcher here, but lots of demands on his time. And, and in particular, he's letting us know that he's absent from cabinet right now. So, and we need him in there to make sure that he's championing the cause for telecoms and ICT. So we will not detain him any further. So we'll have the group photo.